Okay, hi everyone. My name is Berg. I am an assistant professor and an extension nutrition and health specialist at the University of Georgia. I'm in the Department of Foods and Nutrition, and I'm also a mom to a toddler named Isla, who is 3, and an infant named Alex, who is 5 months. And Anjanette was Isla's teacher last year. And so Anjanette has asked me, Miss Russell has asked me to answer some questions related to nutrition and my child and being a dietitian or nutritionist and how that's influenced how I interact with my kid around food. So I'm going to go through her series of questions, and then hopefully that'll give you guys something to think about. The first question is, how has being a nutritionist influenced the way you feed your toddler? Well, certainly I can't unlearn anything that's in my head. I work primarily with adults to help them plan meals and to help them improve their diets to reduce the risk for chronic disease and to just be healthy overall. And so certainly when I am planning meals for my family or just for Isla, I do, think about what is on her plate and are these foods meeting her nutritional needs, and in the long run, are they helping her reduce her risk for chronic diseases in adulthood, like diabetes and cardiovascular disease and hypertension. So, I'm looking to fill her plate to meet her food groups. So, trying to make sure she has a balance of vegetables and grains, primarily whole grains, and good lean sources of protein, and then making sure that she gets some meat and some non-meat proteins, making sure that she gets foods that are rich in iron, since that's really important for development of young children. So I'm always thinking about what her total nutritional needs are and making sure that we are designing her plate so that they meet those needs throughout the day between all of her meals and snacks. And certainly it makes it hard because that which I want to feed her is not always what she would like to eat. Although I am very blessed that I have a kid who will eat a lot of different foods. And I think a lot of that has to do with exposure. And I'm sure you guys have read about a variety of ways in which children are exposed to different foods and flavors. Certainly you would think about me putting food on her plate as a way to expose her to foods. But also, children get their first exposures in the womb. So when mom eats a more varied diet, it's shown that children are more likely to accept foods later in life. And even infants who are come from a mom who had a more varied diet are more likely to accept foods as they are introduced. And then breastfeeding can also impact child acceptance of foods. And so I did breastfeed Isla, and I am currently breastfeeding my infant Alex. And so I do think that has impacted Isla's willingness to try foods and her just initial preferences for food. So she's a pretty good eater. So I'm lucky that she will accept a lot of things that I put on her plate. So the second question that Anjanette had for me was, what information about food do you share with your toddler, like protein, calories, fat, etc.? So I do not talk with Isla about calories. I do think as a registered dietitian and a person that has worked with individuals with disordered eating behavior, I think we should reserve the discussion of calories really until kids get a good bit older, because it can have a negative connotation, and I don't want kids to only be thinking about food in the form of calories. Although there is an educational aspect to understanding the calorie content or energy content of particular foods. Like I said, it's not something I talk about right now with Isla. We definitely talk about protein, and this is really because I'm just trying to encourage her to eat her protein foods. Those do tend to be the foods that are less accepted by children. And as they move through the toddler age, they become very texture sensitive often. And so protein foods can be ones that have a specific texture. You think about meats and things like that, that kids are less likely to accept, or they may go through phases where they don't like those particular textures. So we do talk about protein a lot because it's often those foods that I'm having a little bit harder time to get her to eat. And so we say, protein is really good for your muscles and it helps you run and jump and play. So we do talk about that a lot. And we talk about the fact that if she just eats carbohydrates all day, she may not feel full, and that protein can help us feel full. And we do talk about that with fat as well. We say like these are healthy fats, and your brain needs healthy fat, and your body needs healthy fat, and healthy fats can make you feel full. And so we talk about that with when I'm putting olive oil in something or a different type of oil, and we talk about that. She really likes avocado toast, and so we talk about avocados being a healthy fat as well, and nuts as well. Other nutrients that we do talk about are calcium for strong bones and teeth. I feel like that's an easy one for kids to understand. We talk about vitamin C, helping you stay healthy and avoid getting sick, that you'll find in fruits and vegetables and things with colors. And we do talk a little bit about how colors are important for our body. So we want to get lots of different colors on our plate, and that different foods have different colors, come with different vitamins, minerals. So how much of that she actually absorbs, I don't know, but we do talk about those things. Okay, so the next question is, do you encourage your toddler to help with food preparation while making meals? And if so, what does that look like? And what does your toddler enjoy most about meal preparation? Okay, so this is where I get, in one of my favorite podcasts, they talk about gold stars and demerits. And so I get a nutritionist demerit for this one because I don't include Isla in as much meal preparation as I probably should. And that's primarily because she has 2 working parents and we're often rushed to get things on the table. She does like to cook, and we do make things together sometimes on the weekends, and I will try to have her measure out things or stir or mix, things that are developmentally appropriate for her fine motor skills right now. She's obviously a hot mess in the kitchen, and so sometimes I'm reluctant to let her help because of that, but certainly she can dump ingredients in, she can mix things. I look forward to when I can start teaching her to use a knife and knife skills, because that is something that I see most of our young people or our college students have very little skills in the kitchen, especially knife skills, and that's one of the things that I see that increases people's confidence in cooking is when they get comfortable with using knives. So that's probably not coming for a while, but I do look forward to encouraging that with her. We do know that when kids get in the kitchen and they have more autonomy over those choices and are involved in the food making, that they are more likely to try things. I think this is particularly true of elementary schoolers and middle schoolers and even high schoolers. I used to work in school nutrition, and just having kids taste test, get in the kitchen, try different recipes, or work in gardens at school. I mean, we know that hands-on activity is helpful for them being more open to trying new foods. So I plan to do that more with Isla in the future. I do let her make selections though. So I guess that may be more of her involvement in meal prep right now, is really talking about, what she would like to have and giving her choices between things. Anjanette's been great at helping me provide choices when there are not choices. So choices within categories. So, what vegetable do you want with your lunch today? Or what fruit would you like for your snack? Or giving her options of snacks versus just saying, hey, what do you feel like eating today? Because sometimes she won't make the best choice. Sometimes I do just open it up to her though. And she does, often surprise me with a good choice. Okay, the next question is, have any of your ideas about food and young children changed since having children of your own? Absolutely. For you in the classroom who, think you might become a mom, I will just say that it is a life-changing experience, and any preconceived ideas that you have go completely out the window, and you cannot take your emotions out of it. And I can't take my profession out of it either. So I've got kind of the double-edged sword there. Excuse me, I'm going to pause something on my computer right now that's being a challenge. So what ideas do I have that have changed about food and young children? Certainly I'm seeing more now as she enters toddlerhood of like the food jags, where she wants to eat like one thing all the time, or where she goes through these phases of like, today I like chicken, tomorrow I don't like chicken. So maybe my idea about that hasn't changed so much as just it's interesting now seeing it play out in real life. I'm definitely seeing the variance among children. So Anjanette and I joke about the fact that my daughter Isla is on one end of the spectrum where she will eat all day if you will let her, and her son Jacob is on the other end of the spectrum a lot of times where he doesn't even want to eat because he just doesn't want to stop moving. So I've now experienced more about the differences in kids and the variations even from within a child. So, there are days where Isla is like, wants to eat all day long, and then other days where she's just like not nearly as interested. So that's been a change for me. I'm trying to think if anything else has been anything else that I've really changed my tune on. I think you just have to be flexible as a parent when it comes to food, and understanding that your kid's going to go through phases. And as a working parent, my child normally is in childcare, and I've, inserted my opinions into what the school should be serving and tried to offer my assistance with that. But I've also just had to become more flexible to understanding what the limitations are of a childcare facility and what they can do on a larger scale. So the last question that Anjanette has for me is, what's the hardest part about being a nutritious and being a mom of 2 small children? So I will be very frank that I think the hardest thing for me right now is balancing what I know as a dietitian and what my child wants to do in the moment. So, if she wants to eat and eat and eat because that's what she wants to do right now, it's hard for me to sit and watch and say like, oh my gosh, I know you've had too much. Like that's enough. And letting her kind of feel out those hunger fullness signals. I'm really trying to be cognizant of what I say to her and making sure that I'm not saying anything that would make her not trust her hunger fullness or develop any of those disordered eating patterns, because I don't, as and sure men do it too. And I hear my husband say things sometimes that I, try to have him kind of reframe. But in the current media culture that we live in and the pressure on body image and thinness and physique, it's very easy to let little tiny comments creep in or to react in a way that's probably not best in the child's best interest for development. So I'm just trying to be real cognizant about what comes out of my mouth and the words that I use when I'm talking to Isla. And then just, I think it's hard for me, like I said, to know what I know and really want her to eat the best diet because I know it's so important for her health, and then deal with the fact that a lot of days, like, she just doesn't want to eat what I want her to eat, or, doesn't want to make the healthy choices. She wants to eat junk. Like, I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the beast, I guess, if you will. So I think that's a hard thing. I'm trying to think about if there's anything with Alex right now that's a challenge. So Alex is 5 months and he is exclusively breastfed for right now. And for those of you who know anyone who has been a breastfeeding mom, it is more challenging than I think you might realize. It's a lot on mom physically, emotionally, time-wise. Being a working mom and pumping while at work, I mean, that is definitely a challenge. But again, this is a balance of my life as a mom and my life as a professional, is that I know the benefits of breastfeeding, and that's really, really important to me. So I've really tried to push myself to be able to continue to do that. But there are certainly days where I would like to just throw that out the window because it might be easier. So I think that's probably my biggest comments about food and nutrition and young toddlers and being a mom. I'm hoping that Alex is going to be as open to eating and as good of an eater and open to fruits and vegetables and whole grains that Isla is, because it's really a blessing to have her. She's a really good eater for her age. I mean, when you ask her what her favorite food is, most days, not every day, but most days she will tell you beets. And if you live in the Athens area, you probably are familiar with the restaurant Maypole off of Chase Street over here in Normaltown where I live. She loves to go into Maple and get their beets, and it's like the cutest thing. It melts my nutritionist heart when I walk in and my toddler says, "Do you have beets today?" But then sometimes you'll ask her what she loves the most, and she might say ice cream or cookies. So, she's a kid at the end of the day. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you do have any questions, you are welcome to reach out to me. Anjanette can share my email address. And I hope all of you are staying healthy and well during this COVID-19 pandemic. Make good, healthy choices. It's important for you long term because we will get out of this, and you want to have your health when it's all done. Thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of your semester.